Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We have people still filing into the waiting room here, so we're going to give it just another minute or so, and then we will get started. All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. So, thank you everyone for joining us today as we talk about why it's important to set goals, both personally and professionally. We're also going to talk about a method for setting and achieving your goals and some inspiration for business goals that you may want to set for yourself and your practice in 2024, as well as how you can go about achieving them and measuring your performance. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Um, uh, this presentation, we're going to leave plenty of time at the end for questions. So if you have questions, feel free to drop those in the Q&A box that's at the bottom of your Zoom interface, and we will answer those at the end. You're also welcome to just ask them at the end as well. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm Chelsea Treseder. I'm a practice consultant with Pivot Hearing, which is a practice development services group. And I'm also co-founder of My Vitals Pro, which is audiology's first interactive KPI dashboard. I have the great pleasure of being joined by David Lisco, who earned his doctorate in audiology from NAOSC in Kent and Akron, Ohio. He began his career at the Cleveland Clinic, and he spent many years on the manufacturing side of the industry at both Oticon as well as WS Audiology, becoming the Director of Sales Enhancement and Training, and recently served as the VP of Sales Training and Development, as well as recruiting for Alpaca Audiology. David is a practice consultant for Pivot Hearing and has been invited as a public speaker and sales trainer on a regional, national, and international level. Prior to audiology, David made a career as a rock and roll musician, opening for artists such as Cheap Trick, the Ramones, and Collective Soul, as well as touring as a headlining act. His love of music and sound led him to audiology, and his passion for helping others has grown ever since. He's a member of Mensa and the International Society of Philosophical Inquiry, and his band, The Infidels, has been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So you're in for a treat today, and I'm going to turn it over to David for now.
Thank you, Chelsea. So we're going to talk about goals and things like that. My first goal is going to be to trim down that bio. Wow, like that's like really bloated and long-winded. So I apologize for that. Wow.
I read a lot of bios. That's a good one.
No, it seems like way too long. So hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us. Yes, New Year's Day is one of my favorite holidays for sure. I look forward to it every year. I love the song by U2 before they became Grandpa Rock, but that's not why. I'm an Ohio State Buckeyes fan. Unfortunately, this year we didn't make the top four, and they usually play the Rose Bowl, but that's not why. And also, New Year's Eve is fun. New Year's Day, the hangover, that's not why. So, why is New Year's Day one of my very favorites? Well, I will tell you, for many years, I tried to, set these resolutions and goals. Like, I'm going to get in better shape and I'm going to save X amount of money. I'm going to travel the world, do all these things. And I had very, very sincere intentions to do those things. But most times I fell short. Like, I never hit those resolutions. Like, if you're like me, so I wanted to lose weight, but yet I keep eating pizza. And I want to save money, but I buy guitars. Like, what is that? I meant to do it. I wanted to do it. I was dedicated to do it, but yet I rarely ever did it. So that's how I was for quite a while until one day in 1998. Um, I used to travel quite a bit, and I'm a very social person. I love conversations, and I'm very sincere in talking with people. Like, I genuinely am interested in people. When I fly, however, I hate chit chat. Like, I never liked it. I don't like small talk on an airplane. It drives me nuts. So because of that, I would always bring a book, and back in the day, my iPod. And it was loaded with music, and had my headphones in, and they were wired, and my book, and people kind of knew not to talk to me. But then this one flight, my battery in my iPod died, and I'd finished my book, so I'm like, oh man, like, ugh. And I was sitting next to this older gentleman who was from Texas. He was a Southerner, And he's very nice. And of course, I started like, so what do you do for a living? Like, oh, here we go. Like, like I dreaded these conversations. But anyway, like how fortuitous for my battery to die this day, because as I was talking to this guy, I said, what do you do to be polite? And he said to me, I'm an author. Okay. Anything I would have ever read? He said, I write goal setting books. I'm like, oh, no kidding. And I thought he's going to try to sell me his books and this is really going to suck. Like, I hate this. But he didn't. Like, he was really just like this, like, cool older guy. And so we kind of continued the conversation and I said to him, all right, so like, give me the brief, like, how do I do it? I always set resolutions. I never hit my goals. How do I do this? So he explained it to me. And I'm going to share that with you now. So what you do is you pick 8 categories of life. And this is what he told me. I'm not making this up. This is what I learned from this guy who wrote books on this topic. And so I sat there and I thought, like, what would my 8 categories be? And so I'll share with you, and sometimes they change, but family is always one of them. Health is one. Like these are the consistent ones. Finances for sure. I always set a travel goal because I do like to travel. I have a musical goal. I'm a musician, as Chelsea mentioned in my very long-winded bio. So that's still very important to me. I want to learn something every year. So educational is a goal for me. A spiritual goal, and that could mean a lot of different things, but it certainly has a meaning to me. And then finally, like a work occupational goal. Now, sometimes you can interchange those as well. And like just a couple others to consider that I've listed, like material. Let's say I need to buy a new car, or I really want to save up and buy this boat, whatever it might be. That can be a goal or a household goal. I want to remodel the kitchen this year. So you don't have to be locked into the same 8 all the time. But the idea of this is you pick out 8 categories in your life that is meaningful to you, not to anybody else, but to you. And so you start with that, like, what are my 8 categories of life? Once you've determined that, the next thing you do is you achieve your goals. I kid you not. Like for the past 25 years, I have not hit less than 6, and usually it's 8 out of 8. I've shared this with my sister, who I'm very close with, and she's like, every year I hit all my goals and I never used to. Like, I'm not kidding you when I tell you what I'm going to share with you. If you want to do it, it really works. For 25 years, I make all my resolutions and all my goals every year like clockwork, which is why now I love New Year's Day, because New Year's Day is the day I sit there and go, okay, what do I want to accomplish this year? And I kind of break it down and I do my 8 categories. So you have your 8 categories. What do you do with it? And again, this is what I learned from this gentleman from Texas. He said you treat it like the NCAA Final Four bracket. So, as an example, like we'll go to the next slide and I'll show you kind of what I mean. Let's say for like a health goal, I want to do a lot of things. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to get to the gym 5 times a week. I want to make sure my blood pressure is low. I want to stop eating meat because it's bad for me. I want to give up sugar. Like these are all goals under health that I would like to achieve. And this is what I used to do. I'd be like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds and I'm going to go to the gym 5 times and I'm going to stop eating sugar. And I never did any of those things because there were too many. It was overwhelming. So for my health goal, this is just an example. You start off and you play one against another. So of those things I listed, I want to lose 20 pounds and I also want to exercise 5 times a week. Of the two, which is more important to me? And the answer is I want to lose 20 pounds. Then you go to the next number 3 and 4. I want to keep my blood pressure and cholesterol levels low, and I want to stop eating meat. And then you continue on with that. Then you do 5 versus 6. Give up sugar, give up alcohol. And then finally, I want to go to yoga. I want to meditate every day. So when you kind of play those out, I want to lose 20 pounds wins that one. Blood pressure, that wins that one. Giving up sugar wins, and I want to meditate. So you kind of, like the March Madness, you keep breaking down. So now I have these 4. I want to lose 20 pounds, keep my blood pressure low. Yep. I highlighted and bold printed, I want to lose 20 pounds because ultimately that's what would play out. So my health goal for the year is I want to lose 20 pounds. Now I've got my category, health. I've got my one goal for that category. I want to lose 20 pounds. Why do I want to do it? And this is really important. And again, like I had a great conversation with this guy. And like I hated talking to people on planes. And I still do. I'm not kidding. But like this one time, I'm so glad I did. All right, so why do I want to do this? If I lose 20 pounds, my knees won't hurt as much. I've been a basketball player my whole life, and my knees are awful. So if I'm a little overweight, they really hurt. My blood pressure will, in fact, get lower if I lose 20 pounds. So I'm actually like getting rid of that little smaller health goal within this. My clothes are going to fit better. I'm going to feel better about myself. I'm going to look thinner. I'm going to look healthier. I'm going to feel good overall. That's why I want to do it. The next step is, how am I going to do it? Okay, so I've got my category. I've got my one goal. This is what I want to do. Why do I want to do it? Listen, how am I going to do it? So I'm going to track my calorie intake. 2,000 calories a day. I've got to stay under that. I want to go to the gym 5 times. And again, that was one of my smaller goals. It still can find its way in there. I want to eat healthier and I want to cut back on desserts. If I do those things, track my calories, go to the gym, stop eating so much sugar, eat healthier, I will lose 20 pounds. And this is how it works. You do this for every one of your categories. And then what happens, excuse me, I review everything the first of every month to keep on track. And for me, this wasn't anything he said, this is something I kind of did on my own. I use this sort of color coding chart. If I'm on track, so let's say it's February 1st and I'm down 3 pounds, I mark that in yellow. I'm in progress. Like it's working. I'm on my way. Once I reach a goal, I turn that green. So I type this all out. I have like on a Word document every year. It's green if I hit it. But let's say it's February 1st and I weigh myself and actually went up 4 pounds. Time to reevaluate. Like, okay, I need to focus on this. Why am I not losing it? Did I stop going to the gym? Did I start eating more pie and, it's the holiday season, whatever it might be. But every month, I remind myself of what my 8 goals are, why I want to do it, how I'm going to do it, and am I on track for it? And by doing this, by taking these little step-by-step approaches, I kid you not, at least 6 out of 8 every year gets accomplished. So take a couple of minutes, and you don't have to come up like with your exact, but I want you to kind of think about what are your 8 goals? Like come up with your categories. And again, it doesn't have to be like locked into this right now because it's not New Year's Day yet. We've still got like, 10 days, 11 days. But like take just a minute right now and write down things that are important to you. Is it relationship? Is it family? Is it career? Is it financial? Is it material? Whatever it is, these are your categories. So there's no judgment. I don't care what it is. No one should care what it is. It should be what's important to you. So take just a minute and write down your 8 categories. Then what I'd like you to do leading up to New Year's Day is really come up and sort of, formulate what are my 8 categories? Are these the 8 things I really want to focus on and do better in 2024? So then here's your first call to action. When you have your 8 categories, do the March Madness thing. Write down everything you'd like to accomplish. And again, let's do financial. And I'm just making this up. One goal could be I want to put 20% of my earnings into my 401k. I want to invest more in stocks and bonds. I want to start a college fund for my kids. Write everything down and then play them against each other head to head until you come up with your one goal for that category. Why do you want to do it and how are you going to do it and review it? Okay, so that's call to action number 1. Now, we're also here to talk about business, and those are a bit different from personal goals. And the reason I say that, in our personal life, we can have all these vast categories and all these things that we can break our lives into. But when it comes to your business, you may have several goals. You may have 10 things you want to do, 20 things you want to do. But for business, I think it's smart to narrow it down to 4 things. If you can accomplish 4 things, and these are just some examples that I threw up there. I want to make more money. I want to hire someone, add to my staff. I want more private pay, less third party. I want more patients. I want new patients coming in. I want physician referrals. I'm not going to read them all. But, I want to increase my help rate. I want to take more time off and spend time with my family. I want my marketing dollars to go further. Like whatever your goals are, I would encourage you, the same thing for your business goals. Write down everything that you want to do and then come down to your final 4. I use my March Madness thing. So that's call to action number 2. So number 1 is what are your 8 categories for life, your personal goals. Call to action two are your business goals. And be honest with yourself. Have you ever even thought about setting goals for the year? Maybe you were like me back in the day, like, I'm going to do all these things, and you didn't do any of them for whatever reason. And maybe some people didn't even really think about what should my goals be. I'm just going to kind of chug along and see what happens. If you can stay focused on this and you can put the time and realize what's important to you, I'm telling you, you're going to hit every one of your goals. I know you will. Like I've done this. I've shared this with people in my life. They've all done it. You can do this too. So call to action two, narrow down to your final four business goals and take a look at what those are.
Great. Thanks so much, David. That's an awesome strategy. And I know I'm looking forward to mapping out what my goals are going to be for 2024. So at this point in the presentation, I want to pivot, no pun intended, and focus a little bit more specifically on goals for your business, like David was just talking about. So, why is setting goals for your business important? There's a few reasons. So, goal setting helps you identify what's important to you so you can make progress where it matters. That's exactly what David was saying, right? Like, there's all these things that we know we can do better on in our personal and professional lives. The list is basically endless. But what's really most important to us for this year or this period of time that we're evaluating, by calling those out and setting goals that are specific to those priorities, that's what you're going to focus your energy and attention on and be able to get done. Setting goals also helps you measure progress. It's hard to know whether you're happy with your weight if you haven't decided what weight you want to be at, right? Or how much weight you want to lose. So when you set goals, you can give yourself a clear, something to shoot for, and then measure how you're doing to that goal along the way. Making adjustments where necessary. If you've gained 4 pounds instead of lost 3 pounds, then obviously you need to change your strategy. Whereas if you've lost 3 pounds and you're a month in, something you're doing is working, it's going to be all about consistency at that point. Goals also help you stay motivated. Actually, there's an interesting study that shows that there's actually a psychological shift towards increased positivity when you pursue your dreams. So, by saying, this is what I'm going to go do, you're likely to be motivated towards that and going to experience greater fulfillment and happiness just in the pursuit alone, not to mention when you actually achieve the result. And then finally, goal setting helps keep you accountable. So, kind of to David's example, right? By inking it on a document or electronically or however you're going to do it and saying, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, you're really holding yourself accountable. Whereas if you just said, hey, I'd kind of like to lose weight next year, it's you don't have that accountability factor where you have to log back in the first of the next month and see if you're actually making progress towards that. So when we think about your business specifically, like I was saying, not everyone wants to grow their practice. There certainly are practice owners out there who just want to maintain where they're at. Some owners are hyper focused on exit strategy, right? Like, they know they want to exit in the next few years and sell their practice. Others are totally fine with keeping things the way they are financially, but would like to work less. So I do want to mention that I know not everybody's looking to grow. However, I will say, in talking to thousands of practice owners over the last, 15 years or so, I think the majority do want to grow their business. And even if your goal is to sell your practice in a few years or work less, obviously growing your practice helps you achieve that goal or a better result when you do go to sell, or if you do want to take more time off work and hire more people to replace your own production. So one thing that's true is that there's really only three ways to grow your revenue in your audiology and hearing care practice. And they are: you can sell more hearing aids, you can increase your ASP, and you can increase your non-hearing aid revenue. So in essence, monetizing your clinic time. Um, and that's really it. This is a really short, simple list. And it might sound overly simple, but really these are the different ways that you can drive increases in revenue in your practice. And while this list itself is simple on its face, you can definitely dig down deeper and it's going to get more complex. And I'll tell you what I mean. So let's decide that, after you go through David's exercise later today or over the next week when your practice is a little bit slower, hopefully, let's say you decide that you want to grow your practice this year by selling more hearing aids. That's a great goal, but it's pretty high level and, honestly, a little bit vague. So you're definitely going to need to use his strategy where you say, this is my big goal, and then you map out exactly how you're going to get there. So, figuring out a plan for how you're going to sell more hearing aids is going to be crucial to achieving this goal. So I'll just use, an example practice. And in using My Vitals Pro, the interactive KPI dashboard I mentioned, you know, they saw that they were significantly below the benchmark for existing patient revenue. So if you want to sell more hearing aids, you can either do that to existing patients or to new patients. In the case of this practice, they noticed that they were above benchmark for new patient sales, but below benchmark for existing patient sales. So that was kind of an obvious area of opportunity for this particular practice. And here's where we can kind of drill down and look at, okay, now more specifically, what are the ways we can increase existing patient revenue in a practice? And here's, this isn't necessarily an exhaustive list, but some examples. You can increase your existing patient schedule utilization. So more existing patients on the schedule. You can increase the rate at which you convert existing patients who come in to your practice, whether it's for, a demo of new technology or for some other purpose. If you can convert more of those into hearing aid sales, that's another way to grow your existing patient revenue. You can decrease your existing patient return or refund rate. You can increase your existing patient ASP, right? That's a way of selling maybe the same number of hearing aids, but driving additional revenue as a result. You can decrease the upgrade interval. So in My Vitals Pro, we define upgrade interval as the average amount of time between sales for patients who purchase from your practice more than one time. So if that average is 5.2 years right now, and you can get that down to 4.7 years over the next 12 months, then you're going to drive an increase in existing patient revenue. And we can drill this down even further. So if you want to increase your existing patient schedule utilization, you can improve your database marketing effectiveness. So maybe you need to touch your database more frequently, or maybe the message needs to change, or we need to try some different media or vehicles that we haven't tried in the past or haven't tried in a while. If you want to increase your conversion rate, you might want to make some tweaks to your patient consultation process. David is a master at that, by the way. So if any of these are sounding appealing to you, definitely let me know. This is something we can definitely help with. But the way in which you speak to existing patients and new patients, of course, too, but we're focused on existing right now, about new technology and what's available to help them with their hearing, can convert more patients who are already in your practice. Similarly on decreasing return and refund rates, right? There's things you can do throughout the trial and sale process that can lead to fewer returns and refunds, and then of course, counseling and support that happen after the sale as well to keep your patients really happy with their devices. If you want to increase your existing patient ASP, there's kind of two primary ways to do that. You can increase your technology split, meaning you can sell more premium hearing aids and fewer basic or standard hearing aids, or you can increase your pricing. So you can sell the same number of hearing aids, but charge more when you do so. If you want to decrease your upgrade interval, again, this would be improved database upgrade marketing. So hitting your patients with consistency, with motivational messages that encourage them to upgrade their devices to new technology at a quicker clip. So I won't, you could continue to drill this down, obviously, into further and further detail, but in the interest of time, I won't do that here. Obviously, if this is an exercise that you're interested in, it's something we can help you do. And then we can, outline what are the specific tactics that we're going to do under each of these items in the far right section to achieve these results that we're looking for. And regardless of what your goal is and whether it's generic, like I want to sell more hearing aids, or very specific, like I want to take Friday afternoons off, right? One of the things we really like to do here at Pivot is use data to understand the opportunity in your specific practice, and then combine that with best practices to formulate a plan for achieving your goal while you have a team in place to make sure, action is taken and that you're staying on track. So like we talked about, there's kind of these three major ways to grow your practice: sell more hearing aids, raise your ASP, or generate more non-hearing aid revenue. But within there's obviously hundreds or thousands of different ways you can actually get there. And when you work with our team at Pivot and you use My Vitals Pro, you have the tools and tactics and team that you need to determine your goals, take action on them, and then evaluate whether you're having success or not. And so I thought I would just kind of show you how that might work for a real practice. So we use benchmarking in My Vitals Pro to help you understand for your particular practice, or even your specific clinic locations or your specific providers, where you're generally performing better than practices of your size and where you're underperforming practices of a similar size to yours. Now, none of this can be taken in a vacuum. Like in the example I've got here on the screen, if you're a super hearing aid focused practice and you bundle your hearing aid, that's your, pricing strategy is bundled. maybe you're not concerned at all with being low on non-hearing aid revenue and low on ASP. Maybe that's, part of your strategy. However, if that's not part of your strategy, then these might be some areas where you could focus, your efforts to improve your practice this coming year. So we use the data that we have in MVP and from the close to 700 clinics that are now in the data set to understand where you're strong and where you have opportunity to grow. If you're already in like the 99th percentile for something you see here, that's great. It just might mean that, you know, it's hard to make massive improvements in that area. And there might be other areas that are ripe for you to focus on to make some improvements that will have big effects on the practice overall. Um, and then you would set goals, right? We can use David's method to come up with what your 3 or 4 primary goals are for your business this year. We'll map them out, decide what they are, figure out what those goals are going to be specifically with regards to revenue or hearing aid unit sales or referral sources, or there's a number of different things, ways those goals might come to fruition after that exercise. And then we load those goals into MVP. So within My Vitals Pro, you'll be able to see daily how you're tracking to your goals. Those are going to be available to you in this dashboard every single day to take a look at. And then, within any broader goal, like I said, whether it's sell more hearing aids or generate more physician referrals or whatever it might be, we will help you get very specific about what you're going to do. So are you going to sell more hearing aids to existing patients or new patients? If you're going to sell more to new patients, how are you going to sell more hearing aids to people that are new to your practice? How are you going to get more new people into your practice, right? That's where it gets really tactical. And then you have to take action. So, maybe that's a marketing plan. Maybe it's new creative. Maybe it's rethinking your practice value proposition and making changes to the messaging that you're delivering to prospective patients and the medical community. Maybe it's more effective interactions with patients. Maybe it's better messaging and tools to compete with third parties that can help improve your ASP and improve your conversion rate and decrease TPA percentage in your practice. All these different things can come up with very specific tactics and a plan for taking action on them. And then kind of the last piece is, like I mentioned, you log into My Vitals Pro every single day and you get to see how you're doing. So we have a brand new goals module that we've just built into the tool that enables you to again, see every single day. So I like David's once a month with MVP. You get to do it even every single day or once a week, whatever works for your schedule, and see how you're progressing towards your goals. We're going to use color too. Our colors are, very similar to David's. Like green is you're achieving your goal. Gray is your sort of, kind of middling, you're neutral, and then red would be you're falling short of your goal. So yeah, so what I thought I would do next is David put together that great list of 10 or 15 potential goals that practice owners might have in 2024. And I thought what I would do was pull out a few of those examples that he had up on his slide and show you how some real practices that we currently work with have set some of those exact goals for themselves and then achieved them using My Vitals Pro and the services and offerings here at Pivot Hearing. So this first practice I'm going to talk about is a rather large practice, multiple locations, and they had historically not worked with any of the third-party companies. But during COVID, they started dabbling with TPAs as a strategy to kind of offset other slowness that they were seeing in the business. The owner eventually did not like the pace at which the TPAs were growing in his practice, and they were seeing a really strong rebound coming out of COVID. So they essentially dropped TPAs overnight at the beginning of 2022. They had the confidence to make that decision because they were able to use MVP to see not only what percentage of their units were third-party units, but also what percentage of their revenue was coming from TPA business. And give you a little a spoiler alert here. TPA revenue is always about a third of the TPA units as a percentage. So in essence, you're doing 3 times the work for the same revenue as private pay business. Probably not shocking to anyone who's listening to me today. You know that, you feel that in your practice, but I think sometimes seeing that in like cold, purple type on a black background in MVP can be a bit of a wake up call, right? Like, wow, I'm working so hard and I'm, not generating nearly as much revenue as I would if I could simply switch some of this business to, in-house private pay business. So this practice formulated a strategy for replacing that TPA revenue that had grown in a way they didn't like with private pay business. And what you'll see here is that this practice's private pay units have increased steadily since dropping TPAs and implementing Pivot Hearing's Access Hearing program, which is our program we designed to help practices compete with the TPAs using a compelling alternative offering for patients. So any fears they had around losing patients because of not participating have been unfounded in this practice. And total unit sales have increased due to converting sales that otherwise may or likely would have gone, TPA and are now private pay. So, using MVP, this owner was able to not only confidently make that strategic shift, but then continue to use MVP to evaluate the success of that strategy thereafter. Okay, this next example is on increasing physician referrals, which was another one that was on David's list. So, this practice is located in the South, and they had focused some energy on physician referrals in the past, but they really wanted to revamp their program at the start of 2023 this year. So, with our help, they identified a few potential areas of focus. One was doctors who had never referred. One was doctors who had referred in the past, but hadn't in the last 2 years. So, kind of like lapsed referral sources. And then the third focus was doctors who had the highest average revenue per referral. So, those who were tending to refer revenue generating opportunities, typically hearing aid candidates. So we implemented a number of facets from our robust physician referral marketing program, including, hiring and training a physician referral marketing liaison, training that liaison on My Vitals Pro and using that tool to actually identify which physicians to focus on, and then being able to evaluate the effects of her outreach down to the doctor level, right? So are we seeming to be effective with what we're doing with some doctors, with others? Is it, a waste of our time and we should focus our efforts elsewhere? We did really consistent like call visit planning. So which physicians we were going to see on a very regular schedule. And then we helped revamp their materials and resources. We have an extensive library of things that are, educational articles for physicians, all kinds of customized and customizable branded pieces about the practice that can really effectively communicate any given practice's unique value proposition to their medical community, and further to the patient. So what you can see here is that physician referrals have grown really steadily this year with this real focus and some strategic shifts in how they're attacking that element of their business. And then of course, revenue has increased really nicely as well. Okay, one other example I'll give here. This practice's goal, again, one that was on David's list and that I hear from a lot of practices, was to increase their ASP. So this practice is in the Northeast. They came to Pivot looking to better evaluate their business in order to improve their profitability. So using MVP, when we really did a deep dive into their data, we helped them realize that kind of their lowest hanging fruit, their greatest revenue gain possibilities were going to be in shifting their technology mix to more premium. So you can see here in 2022, they were about, just shy of 20% premium, which for this, this practice is in a very nice area. It's a high end practice. There was no good reason why their premium technology split was so low. So we implemented a number of things to try to move that split in the right direction. This practice started using the hearing aid test drive, which is kind of our patented process for your entire approach to the patient lifecycle, everything from marketing to same day fittings, patient counseling throughout the sales process, and patient care and service after the sale. So they implemented that very strongly this year. They started using the hearing aid test drive in their marketing. We find that really drives the right kind of motivated patients or candidates into the practice looking for better hearing solutions. They participated in our Words Matter sales training, which is something that David leads. So making small changes to their language and patient experience that help drive more hearing aid fittings and more sales. And then we set some real specific goals with the providers on the team to focus on fitting more patients with premium technology. And you can see here that they just in the last 6 months are now close to 36% premium. I see this continuing to move even higher and higher in this coming year. But it's been really great to see this goal be achieved over the past year. So I think with that, I am going to turn it back over to David for just a minute.
Thanks, Chelsea. Yeah, and so there's homework to this. So here's call to action number 3. We can call it homework. We are willing to help you, like really and truly, both Chelsea and her team and myself. If you are interested in doing this, both from a personal and professional level, we'll be happy to meet with you and kind of walk you through the process. Like if you're like, yeah, it sounds good. I don't know if I have time, if I want to do it. I'm telling you, if you do it, it works. So we're willing to meet with you if you want to schedule a time with us to kind of go over what are your categories? Do you have it defined nicely? What are your business goals? Can MVP sort of plug those things in and help you? And we'll do all we can to help you reach those things because I know from personal experience and from most people that sort of frustration of I want to achieve this year and then I never do versus actually getting it done. Like it's really a pretty cool thing. So um, again, both personal and professional, Chelsea and I'll be happy to meet you. So whether your goal is to get in amazing shape that you can dunk a basketball, to meet Mr. Right this year, or to learn how to play a musical instrument, whatever it might be, you can do it and we'll help you do it. You got to be focused, you got to be committed to it, but you've got support systems. You've got Pivot, you've got MVP, and I'll certainly be happy to meet with you and kind of walk you through it. So, ready, set, go. I don't know if there's any questions or thoughts that you guys want to share, but we've left some time to do that. So,
Yeah, great. Thanks so much, David. Like David said, if you guys have any questions, please drop those in the Q&A. I'll take a look at those here in just a second and we can answer those. If I see there's at least one already, but if you have a question that you'd like to ask, please go ahead and do that now. I also want to encourage you to book a one-on-one demo of My Vitals Pro if that's something you're interested in exploring, just taking a look at the dashboard. And um, there's amazing functionality in there to help you understand where the opportunity is in your business and where you can focus for 2024. And then a lot of tools to help you then take action on and evaluate your goals and your strategies moving into 2024. So if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend that. You can book a demo of MVP at myvitalspro.com. It's 30 minutes of your time on Zoom, no obligation or anything like that. So I highly encourage that. And like David said, if you are interested in help with setting your goals or figuring out how to achieve those goals for your business this year, Pivot can help with that as well. And I think, it's the next 10 days, like in some ways they're kind of crazy, but in I know some of us will have a little bit of additional time that because, things can be slower in the clinic. So I would just highly encourage you to use that time to either do these exercises on your own, or if you think you'd like our help or want to see MVP, to reach out to us. We're available and happy to talk with you about that. So I'm going to stop sharing my slides and then take a look at the questions we have here. Okay, so some of these are just so one question is, who would I meet with to go over the business goals? So that's a great question. You'd start with probably a conversation with David, quite honestly, to understand, what you're interested in. If you're already an MVP user, we would certainly bring the dashboard up and use that to help inform where the opportunity is. If you're not an MVP user, then, you may have some insight just inherently into where like you might know in your business, like I discount way too much. I definitely need to focus on you might know some of that. So we don't necessarily have to use the dashboard. That's just a very data driven way to do these things. But yeah. And then that would be the first meeting, of course, and set your goals. And then, and depending on what they are and what's required to achieve them, be happy to work with you more after that to put together a plan. Someone else says, go Bucks.
yay, Ohio State, yay.
Great. So are there any other questions from anyone?
Yeah, and if not, like I'll just, if I may, just to kind of sum
Yeah.
up my thought on this, this is like do something, you guys. Like I talk to clinicians all the time, and I hear all the time, oh, the landscape has changed, and big box stores are beating us, and third party pay, like, and I know those things are real things. There are ways to beat them, and you can love what you do and be successful at what you do, and it's just that matter of the focus and the kind of planning it out. And if you do that, you'll get there. So again, take advantage of it. We're happy to help you in any way we can.
Great. Thanks so much, David. And I appreciate everyone being here today. Get in touch with us, pivothearing.com or myvitalspro.com if you want to set up a demo or schedule a conversation to set goals. And hope everyone has wonderful holiday season. And thanks for being with us today and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.